Today we're going to be talking about what we call community features. We call them that because they're primarily of interest to senior housing organizations, as opposed to other types of Grand Care users. Many of these features reside in the new communities area of the online care portal, but not all of them. One in particular actually happens in the groups area. Let's talk about it. Now, let's take a look at a group that's already existing and edit this. And this is the same form that you use when you create a new group. So it'll be the same thing as if you create a new group, you'll have this option as well as me when I'm editing it right here. So it's way down here at the bottom. It's called Enable Check-ins for all accounts in this group. And what that does is it puts an on-screen button on all the users in this group, and it says check in. And that button appears for a certain window of time every day, and it allows administrative users of the online care portal to look and see who has and hasn't checked in. We'll look at that later. But now, if I go to enable this, first I get this warning. This will take precedence over any on-screen button configured on individual accounts in this group. And what that means is if there's a system in this group that someone has configured an on-screen button for in the care menu, let's say, like for example, this one. This button has been configured on this particular unit to text me when the button is pushed. And it's only for this particular account. But if I enable this check-in button, it will override that button. This guy will disappear and it will be replaced with the check-in button. And the same thing will happen to all other accounts in this group. Anyway, so you can see that I have to choose a start time, and I think I'll choose (6 a.m.) for the button to appear, and then I'll choose (10 a.m.) for the button to disappear, so that I can catch the early risers as well as the sleepyheads who are still in bed at 9:30 or whatever. So now if I save this group, now I've enabled the check-in button for all of the accounts in this group. Now that we've enabled the check-in button for the accounts in this group, we now have on the group page, we get this stuff, account check-in status. Right now, 100% of these accounts have not checked in. But if we go over to this particular account and we simulate the resident touching the check-in button, it says thank you for checking in. The button disappears until tomorrow morning. And in the meantime, we'll come back here and say, whoa, now we've got a checked-in unit. And all of these have not. And what happens if we click through on the hasn't checked in? We get this list of individuals who have not checked in. And we could maybe call them on the phone or otherwise check up on them, and then we could administratively clear this failure to check in for the day. And that's how it works. Communities in Grand Care can be thought of as special interest communities. That is, it groups people together who have a common interest, and this allows you to share common content to them. That's the main function of Grand Care communities. Let's make a community. So I'm going to go over here to the left-hand navigation and click Communities. Here's a list of all the communities that I have access to, and up at the top there's the Add Community button, which I'm going to click now. So let's fill out this form. Every community has to have a name, obviously. Now our next choice is a little more puzzling, maybe. Every community has to have an owner group. Why does it have to have an owner group? Well, It's because the administrative users of this group will have the ability to add and remove people from this community. That's how we determine that. It's the administrative users of this owner group who have that responsibility. So I could just select an owner group for that purpose. Now, do we also want to add all the accounts from that owner group to this community instead of maybe adding them one at a time and maybe leaving some people out? No, I say we want to add them all. And our next choice is, do we want to allow those GrandCare accounts in this community to video call each other? That is, when they look up their neighbors in the community directory, do we want them to see, do we want them to be able to initiate a video call right from that resident directory? And in this case, I say, obviously, yes, we do. That's a very cool feature. So yes, there's a little space for notes. So when you're done, you can either save this community, or in my case, I'm going to cancel because I already have a community that I want to talk about. So here's the community that I want to talk about. It's a great community. And you can see there's a little notice up here that says that the community has video calling enabled, just so that I know that. You can see that it has one account member. And so I'm going to add a new account to this group. I'm going to add Michelle. So I can select Michelle's system and I can add it to my community. And now you can see I have these two systems in this community. Let's go back. And you can see I can add, if I want to, I can add entire groups as well. So there's all the groups that I might add to it. Now, let's talk about making some content. Let's talk about making a calendar entry for our community. To do that, we go to the calendar tab up here at the top. And there you can see there's our calendar for our community. Sadly, there isn't a lot of events for this community right now. So I could either click right on the day that I wish to add something for. So maybe I'll add something for the 30th, and I just click right on that day. And you can see there are no events. So I'll just click the Add Event button. Now this is pretty standard stuff. Anyone who's used an electronic calendar, a Google Calendar, what have you, this should be pretty self-explanatory. And I don't know, I'll just fill in all the necessary details. And let's say that it's maybe this is a repeating event. So I have all the standard repeats that you would have in any other electronic calendar. So maybe we'll say, yeah, we want to do this. We want to do this monthly on the last Sunday of every month. Why not? Why not do that? That sounds like fun. Naturally, it'll be an all-day event, and I can add some comments if I like, and then I'll save this event for this community. Now that I've made this event, it's going to appear on the calendar of all community members so that they know that this is happening. There's my event. Now let's talk about adding a flyer for our community. I'll go up here to the Flyers tab, and there's my Add Flyer button. If I click it, I can simply fill in this form, and that's that. So the first thing is I have to upload a flyer. They're usually in a PDF format. And there's my flyer. And we wait for it to upload. Upload completed. I put in a flyer description. Now I can put in an expiration date, and this is important because maybe my flyer is advertising an event. Well, that flyer doesn't need to be shown after the date of the event. So I might put in a built-in expiration date on it and say that, by the time February's over, I don't need to see that flyer anymore. So now I just make sure that this is checked so that this flyer will show on resident screens, and I save the flyer, and that's that. There's my flyer. It will show on every resident screen in this community. Here is the touch screen of one of my community members, and let's just go through the slideshow with the slideshow button to see if we can get our flyer to come up. There it is. And you'll notice that because it's vertically oriented, that the GrandCare slideshow is going to scroll it upwards slowly so that it exposes all the information without shrinking the flyer itself. Interestingly enough, if we go to the main menu and click on the Photos button, you can see that we have a photo album called Community Flyers. That is, if you wanted to, at the touchscreen, just browse for those flyers instead of waiting for them to come up in the slideshow, you can come here to this photo album and you can see there's our flyer just like we uploaded. And here is a different one. And you can see this one is horizontally oriented, and let's see what that looks like in the slideshow. Let's see if we can get it to come up. So there you can see the whole thing in one go, not a whole lot of scrolling going on. So it's really up to you, whichever orientation you like, you can use for your flyer. Okay, let's talk about community photos. Here's the Photos tab, and the first thing that you have to do if you want photos is you have to add an album for them to live in. So let's go ahead and add album, and your album has to have a description, and we'll say, we'll call it that for now. Yes, we do want the album to show on resident screens, and then we can save our album, and there it is. And it says that there are no photos in this album, so let's add some with the Add Photos button. And here we just get to browse our computer for wherever our photos live. And we'll just say we want these photos. And there they go, uploading, and there they are. Simple as that. Now you can see there's our photo album with a little preview of one of the photos. It says that there are 4 photos and when they were last added. Now let's take a look at the touchscreen and see what that looks like there. So here we are on our resident touchscreen, and of course we can go to the Photos button if we want to browse them manually. And here's a new album. It's Scott's Photos, Community Photo Album. And if we go and look inside, well, there they are. There's all the pictures that I uploaded to this album. But maybe even more importantly, let's take a look in the slideshow. There's our flyers, and there's the pictures that we've uploaded. And they'll just cycle through randomly in the slideshow. There's me in college. Yay. Now let's talk about services. We'll go to the Services tab, and you can see that my community has no services right now. But before we add one, let's just talk about what this is. So a service is something that your community members might order or request right from their GrandCare touchscreen. Things like a grocery service, or maybe they want to make an appointment at the salon. So let's go ahead and add a new service, and you'll see what I mean. I'm going to call it dry cleaning. And now this is important because this is a very simple way to request these services. What it does when you make the request at the touchscreen is it sends an email. Now, to whom does it send that email? That's what we're about to decide right now. So we can just type in our email address that we want it to go to. Now, this can either be an internal person on your staff, or it can be someone out in the wider community that you are trusting to provide these services to your residents. Now we'll save this service, and you can see we have a dry cleaning service listed here, and here's the little widget that would allow us to delete it, and here's the checkbox that tells us it's enabled. But this icon over here, you can, if you'd like, replace that generic little icon with something more appropriate. Like in this example, if you had a company logo, for example, that you might want to use, you could use that here. Now I think I have an icon that I would like to use for this, and there you go. So now I have my dry cleaning service with its custom icon. Now here we are at our touch screen to see what this looks like from that end. Here we are at the main menu, and I have the services button on the main menu. So if I click it, you can see that I now have a service called dry cleaning, and there's my custom icon and everything. And if I touch this button, now I can send my request. Now I want my dry cleaning picked up tomorrow, please, in the afternoon, and I'll just leave some details like 2 suits and 1 shirt. I will submit that. There's my filled out form to request this service, and now I just touch the request button, and that is it. Now I get this notice that says your service has been requested, and that I the touchscreen user, will be notified when the vendor has confirmed my request. This is the provider getting the email request, and here it is. It says that a service has been requested and who requested it, and I get all the relevant information that I need. The requested date, that would be tomorrow. The preferred time of day is the afternoon, and there's a little detail about where to pick up and dry clean. So I'll just click this button to confirm that I, the vendor, agree to this. And when I click, I get taken right to the place where I can confirm this service. And it's important to know that I, the vendor, do not need to have a login to the GrandCare Care Portal to do this. All I need to do is click this link, and it takes me right to this page where I can see all the relevant information, the time and the address and time of day, the details on it, and I can confirm the start time will be 2 p.m. and I will get that back to you at 4 p.m. And I can add some notes like, thanks for your business, and I can confirm the service. That's it. Here we are back at the GrandCare touchscreen. This is the touchscreen of somebody who is in my community, and that somebody has requested a service, and the vendor for that service has confirmed it. So look and see what happens now down here in my notification center. Now, my notification gets badged with the number of notifications that I have. That would be 1. And it says new concierge. So I'm going to touch that. And here we go. I get my service has been confirmed. Dry cleaning has been confirmed that for my service request for tomorrow at 2 p.m. And that's that. If I touch this to view it now, I can see my calendar event. How about that? Now let's talk about messaging. Now, messaging is something that's definitely going to be of interest to people managing communities in GrandCare, but it doesn't happen here in the communities area. It actually happens down here in the message center. So I'm going to click on that and show you what I mean. So right away, I get a list of recipients that I might address my message to. I have residents in this column, and here is a list of communities that I might send my message to. So I can choose individual residents if I want to, and I could choose individual communities that I might want to include on this message. But I think right now I'm just going to message the community that we've been working on. And here you see I get the option to select a saved message that I've used before and saved. More about that in a bit. But I think I'm just going to type in my message for now. And there's my message. And if I like, I can have a sound accompany my message just to get people's attention. And I think maybe I'll see what that sounds like. If I want to see what it sounds like, I can just click this here. That sounds pretty good. I like that, so I'm going to leave that. And this message should have an expiration date. If you don't see it within 12 hours, forget about it. Now this option here for emergency message is important because you never want to use that unless it's an actual emergency. But if it is an emergency, you definitely want to click that, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So let's send our message. And that's that. It's been sent to 2 accounts. You can see that. That's all the people that are in my community, my very small community. Now let's take a look and see what it looks like on the touchscreen. And here's our message about the mail. I'm going to acknowledge it. And that's that. Now let's go over to the Templates tab here in the Message Center. And you can see I have a message that I could type out. I can do that right now, like package arrived. Now, if I find myself typing this message a lot, I could choose just to save it so that next time all I have to do is choose it from this pop-up menu here. And I can have all the choices that I would ordinarily have, like if I want to have a sound go with it. If I wanted to have a standard expiration date, I can choose that. And here's an interesting choice here. I have to have an owner group for this message. That is, which group's administrative staff is going to have access to choose this message when they go to Message Center, if that makes sense. There's the group that I want to own it, and I can click Save. Now, had I chosen a different message, one that's already in here, let's just do that. I'm going to choose a different message, and I'm going to alter it a little bit. So then I could save this as a new preset if I want to. In fact, I'm going to do that. I'll save this as new. And now when I go to my messenger and I go to compose a message, I can choose my changed and saved message now. And I don't have to type it all out as I might have had to do otherwise. And that's how templates work. Now let's talk about emergency messages. So if I want to send an emergency message, I would type it in here. And I just simply choose that it's an emergency message. Notice that my option to choose a sound is gone. That's because an emergency message always has a sound, and it always has the same one. There's no fooling around with choosing what it is. It's going to be the emergency sound, which is distinct from the others. So now I'll click Send on my emergency message. And we'll see what that looks like on the touch screen. That'll get your attention. Listen.
Tornado warning. Take shelter in the main dining hall.
Okay, so I'll acknowledge it, and that's how that works. I hope you've enjoyed this how-to video on GrandCare's community features.